social and labour movements under the banner of the Cry of the Excluded mobilised for a pro-poor interventions ahead of the Wednesday budget. But they say instead Finance Minister Tito Mboweni delivered austerity. I'm joined now from Cape Town by one of the organisers of that Wednesday march, Dominic Brown from the Alternative Information and Development Centre. Dominic, good evening and thank you for joining us on The Globe.
Thank you, Lulu.
Now, Dominic, I imagine most of what was contained in the Finance Minister's budget went against everything you lobbied for. You've had a couple of days to reflect on the budget. Are you still disappointed or have you picked up some silver linings?
Out of the budget is maybe one or two really good things, but most of it is absolutely awful. And in fact, considering the constitution that we have and the need to advance socio-economic rights, I think in the context where there are real alternatives, this budget should be seen as unconstitutional. If the cuts, for example, to the public sector wage bill were to happen, or decreasing salaries of director generals, deputy ministers, deputy director generals and so on, that would be a good thing. But instead we anticipate that it will be wage freezes of nurses, of teachers, of the very people who need good salaries. But not only wage freezes, we anticipate huge amounts of retrenchment within these essential services. So we can imagine classrooms getting fuller, more Michael Kamafis dying in pit latrines, as a result of not only fewer teachers, but also because of less infrastructure spending to education, less infrastructure spending to healthcare, and so on. This budget will really hurt the poor the most, and the government is making the poor pay for the debt crisis. And not only that, it seems as if the state is negotiating with in bad faith, considering that the day before the budget, they pulled out of the 3-year public sector wage negotiations that they had with the public sector unions. Now this is literally an attack on the working class and the poor in this country. And in the meantime, high net worth individuals, corporations who are shifting profits, multinational corporations not paying their fair share in taxes, not paying their fair share in wages, they are all getting them scot-free. The corrupt officials who are to blame for the debt crisis and the mass corruption and mismanagement in state-owned enterprises, they're getting them scot-free.
Now, what would you have the minister do or say, especially when it comes to, the fact that some believe that the budget was aimed at pleasing ratings agencies? What other alternatives does government have?
Yes. So, indeed, this was meant to appease credit rating agencies. And even if Moody's doesn't downgrade us on the 1st of March, on Monday, it's very likely that downgrade is inevitable. Now, what AIDC has been saying for some time, and this proposal has been backed by COSATU as well, is that the huge amount of SOE debt should be removed from the fiscus. And this can be done by using the surpluses of the government employees' pension fund on condition that there won't be mass retrenchments and the privatization of Eskom, for instance. But there were numerous other conditions that comes with it that seems that would be able to kickstart or jumpstart the economy in the way the finance minister proposes. This is a real plan, but in fact what the finance minister and the government proposed on budget day it's not a plan. It's sending us to the brink of disaster, it's sending us over a cliff. Literally, and we can imagine that 11 million unemployed is only going to grow. The precariousness of many of the South African workers are only going to grow. And with this will exacerbate the huge amount of violence that we're seeing in South African society.
Now,
Gender-based violence. Yes.
Dominic, how do you respond to those that argue that bold steps needed to be taken to arrest the structural decline in the economy and, state-owned companies? And that's what the minister tried to do with this budget, to sort of balance the scale.
You see, Lulu, the state budget is different to a household budget. So in a household budget, if you have huge amounts of debt, then you have to decrease your debt or get more revenue to be able to make your books balance. But the state works differently. So for the state to manage its debt, if it's going to reduce its spending, because the debt is a ratio, it's the GDP to debt ratio. If you decrease spending, it reduces the capacity for the economy to grow. So therefore, even if you try and reduce the amount of debt by increasing debt repayment and not spending enough on other essential services, which is what is being done, but the economy doesn't grow, then inevitably your debt to GDP ratio grows anyway. So this is actually precisely the wrong medicine. It's a tried method that has failed consistently, and even the people who developed the method, the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, have come out to say that austerity is a failed method and that we shouldn't use it because it deepens inequality and it deepens austerity. And while the tax breaks to the middle class may be rejoiced for some, in fact, in a country where there's mass inequality, cuts to people earning more than 400, tax cuts to the people earning more than 400,000 rand a year is actually only going to exacerbate that inequality. And this, you see, these are the people who are not spending enough money to kickstart the economy.
Dominic, unfortunately, we have run out of time. I have to cut you off there. But thank you so much for joining us this evening. That was Dominic Brown from the Alternative Information and Development Centre joining us.